Good evening. Welcome to the Oregon City regular meeting for April 24th, 2023. And the time now is 7 p.m. and we will open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Ralston, would you take a roll call of council members present?
Mr. Davish?
Here.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Here.
Mrs. Paula?
Here.
Mr. Reeves?
Here.
Mr. Wallensack?
Here.
Mr. Zale?
Here, also present at this evening's meeting is Mayor Michael Safarian, City Administrator Joel Major, Clerk of Council Cassie Rawson, Law Director Melissa Papura, Public Service Director Paul Roman, Chief of Police Brandon Began, Fire Chief Clayton O'Brien, Assistant Fire Chief Mark Mullins, Building and Zoning Commissioner Jim Gilmore, and Finance Director Nick Roman. Council, first order of business this evening will be the approval of the meeting minutes from the April 10th, 2023 regular council meeting.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves.
I move to accept the minutes as presented for the regular meeting, April 10th, 2023, as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, the meeting minutes from the April 10th, 2023 regular council meeting have been approved. Council, we have actually three public hearings this evening, and I'm going to put two of these together, which are just actually renewal applications for agricultural district. So I will open, well, the first one will be a renewal for application for an agricultural district for Perry Buchanan III et al. For 39.012 acres located at 7050 Navarre Avenue, 57.146 acres located at 6701 Navarre Avenue, 39.012 acres located at 7150 Navarre Avenue, and 13.8 acres located at 381 South Norden Road. Also, there is a renewal application for an agricultural district for Janice R. Sheehan, trustee, for 32.18 acres located at 1225 Bury Road, and 150.82 acres located at 6757 Brown. I will open these two public hearings at 7:03. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of either one of these agricultural districts? Hearing no one. Is there anybody to speak against either of these agricultural districts? Hearing none. Council, do you have any comments or questions regarding either one of these? Hearing none. I will close the public hearing at 7:04 p.m. And I will assign item 65, 2023 as ordinance 65, 2023, and ask Mr. Ralston to read in the record.
Approving inclusion of certain land situated in the city of Oregon, Ohio, owned by Perry Buchanan III et al. Into an agricultural district for a 5-year period and declaring an emergency.
Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 65 of 2023 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Mr. Ralston, will you take a roll call vote of council, please?
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mrs. Paula?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 65, 2023 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Next, I will assign item 66, 2023 as ordinance 66, 2023, and ask Ms. Ralston to read in the record.
Approving inclusion of certain land situated in the city of Oregon, Ohio, owned by Janice R. Sheehan, trustee, into an agricultural district for a 5-year period and declaring an emergency.
Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 66 of 2023 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second, Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Mr. Ross, will you take a roll call vote of the council, please?
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mrs. Paula?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 66, 2023 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves?
thank you. Mayor Safarian, I just have a question, about is it by Ohio Revised Code or something like that, that we have to do this every 5 years? Or can it be extended or?
They set up the basis of this. And not only we have the formality of going through this process, but if they meet all the criteria, we almost can't deny it. They meet the criteria set up by the state. And if they meet it, we have to process it. And they allow for 5-year terms, and it's their structure, and we just move it on.
Is there, the reason I ask, is there a fee every 5 years for that?
There is. But the savings, if they're in, is kind of nominal. Nick, do you know what that is offhand?
When you say the savings or?
The fee, no, the
The fee is
fee.
$65 every 5 years.
It's just- So yeah, it's not, I've never heard anybody complain about it.
Yeah, no,
But that is the structure set up by the state and,
The county.
yeah, and through the county,
Yeah,
but
through the
it's,
county.
so we're sort of bound to have them do that every 5 years because of the state, correct?
that would be my assumption.
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
want to
you see
say
the
it's
same ones
wasted
come back.
time. I don't want to say it's wasted time for this, the landowner that comes to do this, but it is sort of a redundancy that we do this every 5 years for them. But I mean, if that's the state law, then I
We
guess.
certainly, we can certainly check and see if it has a provision to extend that.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
if that's
just-
a possibility, but we.
And I know $65 isn't an awful lot to some people, but it could be to others.
Hmm.
So, I mean, thank you. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Okay, council, we have another public hearing, and this is for an application for SUE 178-23 for a special use exemption in a C4 Dustin Road Business District for the purpose of operating a gasoline/service station on the property described as parcel number 44-24264, located at 2740 Navarre Avenue, and the applicant is Jerome R. Parker, attorney at law. And I will open this public hearing at 7:08. Is there anybody here to speak
Wait a
in?
minute, Mr. Gilmore first.
Mr. Gilmer, you have something to tell us about this? Go ahead.
Well, I could, and I
Go ahead,
will.
go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. President. First of all, this went to the Plan Commission March 21st. It had 4 votes to 0 for recommendation. I just wanted to point out that this is not only a service station, but it's a grocery store and a restaurant, and they will have charging stations for electrical vehicles there too, if approved. So with that being said, it was recommended for approval, and it's here for your final decision.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore.
Mr. President.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
And I would go to say what happened at the planning commission and why the planning commission came to the 4-0 vote. There was one member absent of a 5-member panel. It was presented to us for the SUE for this service plaza. And we had people come up and question whether it was the right place for a service plaza that sold gas. And they were making the comments that they thought it was a more likely spot for a restaurant of some sort or some other type of retail business. And they had heard that Giant Eagle had outbid Chick-fil-A for that spot. Well, we found out that was simply not the case. Chick-fil-A did check into that spot, as well as Raising Cane, and Panera Bread. There were several other retailers that we knew of that didn't care to be mentioned, but each and every one of them discarded that as an option for their business. I know Darden, who had interest in putting an Olive Garden here, had also looked at that spot. The comments that I got directly from them were that if they put an Olive Garden in, they have to have approximately $6 million of gross annual sales for Olive Garden to survive. If you do the math, that comes out to about $16,000 worth of sales a day, between $16,000 and $17,000. They're so particular at how they run their operation, as most of sit-down restaurants of their scale are, that even moving the parking in a different configuration was something that discredited them to put their Olive Garden in our town center. That's where they checked that location also. And for some financial reason or for whatever, it didn't fit their possibility as a viable spot to locate a restaurant and be successful. Each of those other restaurants or fast food places discounted that they no longer considered that as a viable spot to locate because they figured their business couldn't be successful there. So there was no other interest of anyone else, and we tried to lead people to that location with no avail. So when the Giant Eagle folks suggested this Get-Go, that's all we had of options. There was no one else really thinking that they could locate successfully a business in this location. So we were faced with either having a Get-Go service plaza or an empty building. And that's why we came to the rationale to approve that site. So that's where we stand. Now you can go and open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question for you. The way you just phrased the last thing you said, it made it sound like we went out to find Get-Go, or did Get-Go come and find us?
They came to us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
There was no,
Thank you.
when they usually, that's how each of the individuals do. With some of the other places that we were entertaining for our town center, and if it didn't work for them, we suggested that place to a couple other restaurants or retailers, and to no avail though.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this item? Jerry, state your name and address for the record.
Good
please.
evening. My name's Jerry Parker. My address is 1 Seagate, Toledo, Ohio. I'm the attorney for Get-Go Giant Eagle on this particular project. I won't make a long presentation because, as you already know, the Planning Commission voted unanimously for this project for a number of reasons. Not just because of the services it provided, but because we made a commitment to the Planning Commission and also your Project Review Committee before the Planning Commission recommended approval, because this particular operator, my client, agreed and was sensitive to what you want to do next door and agreed to do extensive landscaping, bioswaling. It also agreed to increase the landscaping on Isaac Street side, and as part of their water quality requirements, increase the setbacks on side, front, and rear. If you look at your side, front, and rear, they're 20 feet. I think on the side toward Isaac, we've increased it to 30 feet to provide you more green space, more landscaping. I delivered a packet to you. I hope you all got it. It gave you some inside pictures. It gave you the site plan, noted the extensive landscaping on Isaac Street. So that's why the review committee, and I'm the one that suggested a wall. There are other communities that have a wall on certain streets that they want to enhance and provide some extra screening and visual enhancement. And you'll see a picture of a wall that will run all down landscaping, down Isaac Street, as to also further increase the look of the building. This building, if you look at it from an aesthetic standpoint, will be consistent with the newer buildings you have on the bar, and hopefully better in terms of its construction, landscaping, and materials. So I wanted to point that out to you. In addition, there has been some discussion, I know, one of the biggest supporters is one of your largest corporate citizens, Mercy Hospital, St. Charles, Matt Supera, who I have a text a half hour ago saying he's 100% behind the project if anybody wants to see it. But I've talked to him when I first submitted it, as well as before the Plan Commission. And there's a number of reasons the hospital's behind it. One, there's, as been indicated, there's a vacant, rather, if I may, unattractive building there now. So it costs a lot of money to take that down, which increases the cost of the overall project. Secondly, the cafeteria hours for the hospital do not run 24/7. If anybody's unfortunate to have to visit there. So this facility with this fresh produce, there's a whole litany of 18 seat restaurant with all kind of a full kitchen that can supply all kind of on a 24/7 hour basis to the visitors, the doctors, the employees of the hospital, convenient, safe, right there in their backyard. They very much would like to have this as an amenity to help the hospital, not only from a cafeteria stand, but for gasoline charging stations, whatever you may have. So in addition to that, if you'll notice on Isaac Street right now, you've got the street lights, but if you look at the site plan, there will be not only an improvement of those street trees, whatever we've got to do, but there'll be an additional 20 to 30 feet of green space along Isaac Street from the sidewalk in, if you look at the site plan. And the other thing that Mr. Gilmore has done to protect the city is there's no zoning change here. There's no zoning change because we all know you can get a zoning change and then you don't necessarily build what the zoning change says it wants. That happens sometimes and you get something else. Here, if we don't build this, nothing happens. It has to be built exactly as the city wants it to be built with all the landscaping because it's a special use permit. There is no other alternative. If this doesn't happen, you're back to square one. I hope that doesn't happen. But he protected the city by saying, you don't need a zoning change. We can control the site. We can keep it C4. And of course, there are other uses in C4 that could be made without anybody's approval. But in this circumstances, the city's getting, and the citizens are getting a maximum protection that the building will look like it's presented to look. The landscaping will be installed as it's agreed to. And of course, in addition to this, this is not the final step for us. We have to go through the Architectural Control Committee and work with them to create, as we've conditioned and as the Planning Commission required, make sure that it's an architecturally, aesthetically pleasing building and landscaping. It will be a very, very nice facility and I think a complement to this whole area. And I say this on a third-hand basis, but I know how sensitive the city is and to the development of the town center. And we talked to Fairmont, their representatives as well, and they have indicated they would like to see this happen. Obviously, it kickstarts, when you invest, and the cost of the project is estimated to be $7 million. It's a heck of an investment in the city of Oregon. And it kickstarts development across the street. And they're much in favor of having this happen at this location. So with all of that being said, once again, I don't see any drawbacks to the city or to your intended development across the street by letting this go forward with all the conditions we've agreed to. And if you've looked at the menu, I mean, it's quite extensive. All those things will be provided to not only the visitors and the employees of the hospital, but all the citizens in the city of Oregon or visitors who come here. And in addition to that, this is a quality corporation. I don't think there's any dispute that Giant Eagle is a financially secure corporation. Not only that, it becomes a very good corporate citizen in the communities in which it locates. I know that from personal experience, having represented their grocery stores in some locations. They're very, very active, good civic citizen for the cities and townships in which they locate. That's my presentation. If you have any other questions, I gave you all that material ahead of time so you'd have the opportunity at your leisure to look at it all.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Thank you.
Council, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Parker?
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak?
I'm going to assume we can reserve the right to, after we hear support and any detractors from this, that we can come
Yes.
back. So if we have questions, you'll be
Yes,
available.
sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here to speak in favor of this item?
PJ Cabhammer, 3646 Navarre Avenue. I guess I think there's this feeling in our community that we have a choice and pick what we want there. And there's about 3,000 versions of what everybody wants. But I also remember the meeting where we were at Home Depot when we decided we weren't going to do a Home Depot because there was opposition. And we all know how that turned out. In a perfect world, does anybody want another gas station compared to an Olive Garden, a Chick-fil-A, or anything else? Probably not. But here's the problem. You're looking, I thought it was 5 million, 7 million. You have a giant corporation, well-respected in their field, who wants to put $7 million in your community. That property doesn't face Navarre. So a Chick-fil-A and all the restaurants and everybody else, when you're talking about a $5 to $7 million investment, they want frontage. I bought my house before Walmart got built, thinking I'm going to sell this thing and make a fortune. It's still empty. I mean, we filled in some spots. But also, if you go down Navarre, as many gas stations as we have, go down there at 11 o'clock and see what gas stations you have. You have the one by 280 that's open. It's it is a one-way street. And that's it. You got to go all the way down to Osco's. And I believe, not even Osco's what it's called now, but I believe they're not even open at night anymore. We shut our restaurant down, 9:30. I can't tell you how many people want to come in and eat and are disappointed, but there's no financial gain for any restaurant to stay open past 9:30 because you're cleaning, you're doing a bunch of stuff. In a perfect world, this isn't anything I would pick that I want there, like my first 20 choices. But I think it fits there. I think it's highly viable. I do believe they'll put the money in upkeep and keeping it good. In the big picture, everybody's excited about the town square and everybody's waiting for that. If you're turning down a $7 million project, you might be waiting a lot longer. And I can name a couple buildings just got ripped down that have been sitting vacant for a long time. They're now finally getting something on there. And it's not something anybody else wanted either. They don't want car washes. But it fits the zoning and they're going to do them. So I don't know. I'm for development, especially if it's a classy place that's going to do it right. I'm also for that town center that hasn't happened yet. But I believe it sends a message that there is an investment of $7 million going in right across from it. And if that spring loads the town center, I think this is a good thing for Oregon. I don't think we're going to get a Kohl's anytime soon. And probably about 4 or 5 really good restaurants that are going to tie in well. But those restaurants are going to want frontage. They're going to be on Navarre. And this is a different thing. So you'll have to do what you have to do, but sometimes in the big picture, you do some things to fill in the whole big picture. And sometimes you can hurt the big picture by going the opposite way. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Capman. Is there anybody else here to speak in favor of this item? Is there anybody here to speak opposing this item? Come on up and state your name and address for the record.
Sean Baddock, 1471 Country Farms Road. I'm not going to say that I totally oppose it because, like you, I agree with you. We need development in this community bad. What I'm concerned, I know it's going to look good from what you told me. What I'm concerned about, what happens to a gas station when they shut down and you want to use it for a different type of property? Anybody familiar with the environmental that needs done with that? What do you do with the gas tanks that are inside down below the earth? It's all got to be removed. What I'm afraid is they're not gonna stay, or they're gonna put someone else out of business, possibility, where we're gonna now have an empty gas station sitting there, not being able to sell the property because you've got gas tanks underneath the land. Giant Eagle, where are they at in Rossford right now? They put all that money into Rossford. How many years did they stay there? Okay, are they there now? What happened to that building? So I don't have a lot of faith that Giant Eagle's gonna put their money where their mouth is. Is there a contract that they have to stay for so long? These are the things I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about somebody going out of business, whether it be them or another one, and we're stuck now with a corner we can't do anything with because it was a gas station. And I know we've been there before. So that's my concern with it. Not that it's ugly. I know we don't really need another gas station. I do get my gas at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I do go to the one you're talking about because I go up that way to the E-way. So it is convenient, but that's my big concern is what's going to happen 5 years down the road when they pull out or they put someone else under. You know, BP's doing something on the corner there. I'm not sure what it is. Looks like they're revamping the entire BP station. I've seen them up and leave before too. I think the one on Woodville Road, isn't that deserted? Woodville and Lemoyne, BP gas station? I haven't seen much activity there. So I just don't want that to happen to us. That's what I'm afraid of with a gas station.
Mr. President.
A different company bought that BP station. I don't know.
Did
who-
they?
Who was
The one
it?
over in Navarre or Woodville and
Was that? Yes, right, it's S&G, yeah.
bought the one at Coy?
In
and-
Navarre and Coy, and
Okay.
they're actually leaving the pumps where they're at, and they're.
Yeah, I
and
saw they're
doing
adding
the-
on a lot.
They're
Building
doing
building
the-
behind.
So they're putting a lot of money into that.
Yeah,
What's gonna
yeah.
happen when these people move in? I don't know. It's competition. And I don't think the food part's competition to anybody from what I can tell. I was concerned it was competition to PJ, but it's too far away and it's not the same. Totally different venue.
Mhm.
He's got good food. I'll attest. I ate there Friday night. So,
Mr. President.
Mr. Mayor,
And Sean did to address about the pumps, about the tanks in the ground.
yes.
We did have that on the corner of Navarre and Wheeling there where the Chase Manhattan Bank is
Yep,
now.
you did.
And I knew the people that owned that. And when they tore that station down, Bob Watkins had a crew out there. They took the tanks right out and it was available. They run all their environmental
Testing?
checks.
Yeah.
And so even with them out, and it having a safe report, it still took about 19 years to sell that place. You know, and it wasn't
Yeah.
because of the pump, but it just to fit in. And we faced similar critiques about that place. Oh, we have another bank. We don't need
We
another
don't need
bank.
another bank.
All right, but the thing with us, we were pleased to have the bank because one of the options was a Starbucks. That corner was the focus point of the safety grant we got to improve that whole area. And the Starbucks turns over so many people constantly
Yeah.
and adding to the corner traffic where the Chase Bank, it doesn't have that many turnover of cars. So it became really an ideal fit for us. They were a fairly wealthy company that
Yeah.
built a beautiful building and maintains it well. And it's a marquee right on the corner of the city. So what people complained about ended up being a real asset to us. A beautiful building
Yeah.
and the lack of traffic that it would add to the corner, that was a problem.
Yeah.
So you say if you want a bank or need a bank, but to fill that vacant lot sure did us a lot of good.
Yeah. So I'm just voicing those concerns. That needs to be looked at.
Very
Because I
good.
see that ugly eyesore of a Giant Eagle sitting over there in Rossford and that was the anchor store for all the other ones. So, yeah, that and Home Depot, which we won't talk about Home Depot, will we?
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
thank you, Sean, thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak in opposition? Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
It's going to take me 2 minutes and 45 seconds because I practiced it. My name
Let's
is-
start let's check.
My name is Cindy McDonald. I live at 3444 Dustin Road. I've been a citizen of Oregon for about 34 years. I don't have any skin in this venture other than being a citizen of this community. I would also like to say that public speaking is not on my bucket list, but this is important, so here goes. A gas station is a terrible idea. How many stations and gas pumps does this city need, especially within a mile and a half or two of each other? What's the reason for this? It can't be for the competition. The prices at the current stations all fluctuate the same. The city is looking at building a beautiful town center, and I'm certain that council is anxious to show some progress, but this is not the answer. Why would we want a gas station after the hospital to be the first business seen when nearing our town center, especially coming from the west down Navarre? I know there is talk of using a beautiful brick and planting trees. However, you can put lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig. This is still a gas station. The article in the press said St. Charles is for this. They think it's good for their employees. I don't have anything against St. Charles. It's usually my hospital of choice. However, I think they may have an ulterior motive. I think they're concerned that some other competing medical entity might want to build on that location. I don't know this, but give it some thought. I know from some experience about a gas station thinking that they will entice employees to come to eat. I worked shift work at the Sun Refinery, and then when they remodeled the gas station at Pickle and Woodville Road, we could get fresh pizza, chicken, and sandwiches made from scratch. This was a big deal. It lasted a minute, and now none of those fresh items are available. It was easier for the shift workers to bring in their own leftovers, a TV dinner, or a sandwich from home. Now there's Grubhub and other food delivery services. Why would I want to get food from a gas station? The article in the press also wrote about a place where you could sit down to eat. Honestly, how many of you or the other people of Oregon are going to say, let's go out to eat? How about we go to the gas station? Why would this even be promoted, especially once the town center is built with all the new restaurants that are supposed to be there? Please do the people of Oregon a great service and do not approve this. Once it's there, should it not work out, it will be very difficult to put something else in its place. There's a lot of work at considerable expense that would have to be done to replace a gas station with something different. Remember, the first option is not always the best option. Sometimes patience needs to be practiced. I think that this is one of those instances where patience may lead to a better option and opportunity. Again, please do not approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak in opposition? Hearing none. Council, do you have any questions or comments? Mr. Horniak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple questions directly for you, Jerry, if we may, and I'll kind of reserve some time because I'm sure I'm going to be a little bit vocal and energized into the conversation here today. The current zoning is C4, and before I ask with you, I'm going to start from our own building and zoning. Mr. Gilmore, current C4 allows for what?
Well, allows for a number of uses. Allows for retail, business, services. Like a bank, it'll support, it even says automobile dealerships, but you have to have a conditional use to have outdoor display with it. But those, it's limited in those uses.
Is the C4 and C5 similar?
I believe they are.
Because I thought C4 had a little bit more of a lean towards medical office component as opposed to the C5, which did allow for the.
Well,
more
I can
retail.
get the allowable uses here. Just give me a moment.
All right. A couple questions for you, Jerry, if I may. You had mentioned that St. Charles is in support of that. I saw a letter. Is anybody here from St. Charles tonight to support it?
There's a letter in the record from Matt Sapera.
I see that. Anybody else from St. Charles that supported this?
Not that I know of.
Or has written
he's
a
the
letter or
director.
spoken on behalf of it?
He's a director, and I've got a text from him if I can put that in the record.
Okay, so the
He's
one
called-
letter
he's-
the one letter that was in your packet is
Yes. it's
what you
there.
have from that?
Supportive,
Okay,
yes.
very good. And then my other question, Jerry, for you at this point in time is, who from Fairmont told you that they supported this specifically?
Which is, if I may, I want to thank this gentleman for pointing out that's a $7 million investment across the street is the reason Fairmont's very much interested in having it go forward. I think his first name is Randy.
Okay, because
Yeah.
about 4 days ago.
Randy's his first name, and I've got a text from a reliable source that he talked to him today. Talked to Randy, and Randy's very much, Fairmont's in favor of us going forward, like to see this kind of investment across the street.
Okay, because what I would have shared with the council members here is I sat 2.5 feet away from him 4 days ago, and we had this exact conversation. And his basic gist was, I would like to see anything but a gas station go on this corner.
Well,
That's why I had to ask that, because that flies exactly opposite of what he had asked, because I specifically drew him into that conversation and asked, what's your opinion of a gas station on that corner? So that's why I'm really curious of who from there, and if it's Randy, and if he's stating that, has he stated that to anybody else? Because several of you were in that meeting, and I think you heard the same thing that I did.
Mr. President,
Mr. Mayor.
I was in that meeting and he said something similar to that. As I spoke with him for quite a while afterward, he kind of restated a different version, Randy did, because then I knew he had follow-up comments with Jerry Parker. And he did come back to say to me before he left here that day that, yes, he did indeed think it would be an asset to have action going on there. And I said, well, you did kind of say something different. He goes, well, what I first was faced with was when the sheets came in and they were addressing our particular parcel. And so at that time, he said, no way that would fit on that parcel. There's other desirable, more desirable things he could see on that site, but he recognized the likelihood of getting those things was very limited.
Okay, but so are you saying that Randy has reversed his position from?
That's what I took.
Tuesday of last week?
By Tuesday, after that same day, he actually said that to me.
Okay.
Here.
All right. The other thing I had for you, Jerry, if you could speak to it a little bit, and then I'll yield the floor to others for questions and maybe circle back later. Talk to me a little bit about the orientation of the building and the pumps to Navarre Avenue.
Well, the site plan that we submitted to you is in your packet as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a distance from both Isaac and Navarre, with the pumps in the middle of basically in the middle of the property. I don't know if the site plan, you can get the site plan up on the screen.
But the building doesn't, no, I'm familiar with it. The building doesn't obscure the pumps. Is that accurate?
Well, it obscures it from Isaac Street if you're looking.
From Isaac Street, but not
Yeah.
from Navarre Avenue.
Well, no, but one other point I'd like to make before that, one of your planning commissioners did something that was quite unusual, did an own survey of himself, by himself, of the number of service stations you have in this area, compared it to Central Road in Sylvania
Perrysburg.
Township and Perrysburg as
Mhm.
well, and found out that they have about the same. You have about 2, and this would be 3. So the question is really, there's not a lot of competition, especially when you have a 24/7. So that was one of the comments. But as far as the pumps, there they are. I mean, with the landscaping and the mounding and the wall, the focus for me, because of the express concern of the city, was to buffer that from Isaac Street and make it as invisible from Isaac Street as possible. And that's the way it will be, really, once all of this landscaping, mounding, and wall is put in. You won't be able to, have a hard time seeing that canopy and those pumps from Isaac Street.
Mr. President?
Mr. Wallenjack.
And one of my concerns, Terry, can you turn your mic on?
Turn it on.
Thank you, Terry. One of my concerns is what you were bringing up, the orientation. I mean, we see very nice pictures of the building. Everything you've given us shows very nice pictures of the building. But that's not what you're going to see from Navarre Avenue.
Okay.
You're going to see pumps and an awning. And that's what, one of my big concerns is when you're driving down Navarre Avenue and you're coming into where our potential new development's going to be, and you're sitting at that traffic light at Isaac Streets Drive,
you don't see a nice building that you're gonna build. You're gonna see gas pumps and an awning and a wall. And so my ask, and I know that the mayor, after I expressed that to him, he went to you to ask you, what about even rotating it 90 degrees on the property? So when you're sitting at that traffic light, you're seeing a building, not gas pumps. And you said you will do anything that you guys want in the city.
My
You know-
response was if it can be engineered to move or tilt the building, yes, we would do that. But our engineering department, this is a new request, our engineering department would have to make sure we can put the tanks where they need to be in the secure distances from whatever they have to put them through or from, and tilt the building that way. And my client's willing to look at that with your administration, and they can work with our engineers and see if it can be done.
Yeah, I mean, because the aesthetics of what it looks on Navarre Avenue is a big concern of me. And when you're leading into a development that somebody's gonna hopefully invest $50 million, from my standpoint, I don't know if they would like to see gas pumps, and if there's another view going into that, they may like it a little bit better.
Well, my focus has been making sure that, one, and the reason I contacted the people I did is because I knew you were sensitive to it.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been in front of you a number of times. In fact, I worked on the gas station with your administration on Navarre and Coy for the BP, and did everything you wanted there to make sure and there's a nice new building being built there right now. We were very cooperative. And so I never misrepresent anything, and I don't say anything my client won't do, because I've been doing this too long, in the opinion of some people. But anyway, we would be more than happy to take a look at it. Now, if you would want a deferral and let us look at it, if that would make you feel more comfortable, I have no problem with that. But it would
I'm not at that point yet.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Thank you, Mr. Parker. I have a
Mr.
question
President.
for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I did learn because I had concerns about this, how much Mercy Health was actually going to use this for food. And I did find out today from Matt Sapara that, of course, the cafeteria on weekdays is only up to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays and Sundays only till 1:30 p.m.
Right.
However, here's my concern, and someone brought up Sunoco. Did you bring up Sunoco? Yeah. And I worked midnight sits on the street for a long time when Sunoco was first built, and they had all this food and stuff in there and available. And she's correct. I wouldn't say it was gone in a hot minute, but it did not last. It didn't last. And actually, that corner gets a fair amount of traffic at night. My big concern here is, and I thought about this the other day, I'm going, well, you're promising 3 shifts, a certain amount of place for 3 shifts with the food available and this and that. And I go, I just, after being around at night in Oregon a lot, by 11:30 midnight, the sidewalks have rolled up. I could see business coming in there during the summertime, from Sandusky, Port Clinton, the lake area that way, and back and forth up to Detroit and wherever they come from Michigan a lot. I could see that, but I just don't. My concern is this viable to keep this place running? Because you are really selling the food items. I mean, you really are. You're not selling the gas. And of course, and gas stations don't make money on gas.
Correct.
They make money on stuff like this.
That's why they even call this a gas station.
Right.
Someone of a
They don't make money
misnomer.
on gas. They make money on people coming to their markets. That's where they make their money. But I just am a little concerned that I don't know how long that would sustain itself. And if that stops, then what do we have?
This is a special use permit. There is so much control that you have. You can add that as a condition.
No, what kind of condition would I add?
24/7. That's what
Well,
you're concerned about. that
I
way it
know,
won't be open.
I know, but that doesn't mean you gotta make sure that they always have anything could happen where you couldn't afford to have the product 24/7. It's hard to put that to a company and force that. But that's just one of my concerns. I've seen it happen here. From what I understand, what's the one on Navarre and Dearborn? Where am I thinking? Sitco? No, not Sitco. It's Circle K. My understanding is Circle K doesn't even sell their food like they used to there anymore. And I think they had a little restaurant there. They closed down. Am I right? I'm not positive on that, but that's where I'm coming from on this right now.
I don't know how to respond other than that's true of any business. isn't it?
Yeah.
I just think the planning commission and your review committee, for a lot of good reasons, have recommended approval with these conditions and with the enhancement and with review of the architectural control.
Mhm.
These people are quality operators. You can't find a more financially, I think, and quality operator. than
I'm
they
not
are.
questioning the quality.
So that's why I
I'm
guess
not.
that gives me some comfort to say they
Yeah.
fully intend and will be successful in presenting what they are going to say they're going to present at this location.
Mr. President,
Mr. Mayor.
and you bring up the point of a 24-hour service that other places had, but I think it's a little bit different scale as a restaurant that they're proposing here. And I do know that Kathleen Pauloff did talk to a 24-hour restaurant operator that was literally across the street from there, and she could give you a little update on what that opinion was, if you would want to do that.
Yeah, I was
now.
going to do that,
Yes.
Mr. President.
Ms. Powell.
So I did speak to him and he said that, please.
So who it is?
I will. Let me tell my story. So I was thoroughly against this. I really was. And up till last week, and I did my own research. I don't make my decisions based on what anybody on this panel wants. I do my own. I appreciate all the information that you guys have given because you guys did hit on some really good points. Mr. Parker, thank you for your packet was very informative. This weekend, I ran into a very dear friend of mine, John Free, and he owned the Freeway Plaza. It was open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, closed on Christmas. The one thing he told me, he said, there is nothing on Route 2 that is open 24 hours, and it is a state route. There are people traveling down that road all day, all night, and nothing is open. Nothing. I don't know why Circle K no longer serves food. I don't know why the gas station by BP or by Toledo Refining no longer serves food. I don't know why those didn't work. It could have been their own business model that failed. It could have been a lot of different reasons. But everything that I've looked at, I'm trying not to look at this as a gas station. What Mr. Free told me hit a really stark nerve with me because his family ran that business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right there across the street where this is being built. And it was a successful business for over 60 years. And he told me, he said, you would be stupid not to vote for it because you need something on Navarre Avenue. Yeah, they sell gas. Yeah, they sell a charge for your car. But I really respect the man because he had a viable business, a family business that really shaped Navarre Avenue for 60 years. And when coming from him, I took a lot of stock in that and I did a little more research over the weekend, went to restaurants, award-winning restaurants in Oregon, be it on Woodville Road, 7 o'clock on a Saturday night, and it was empty. Do you think that these businesses could last with that? We have got to be positive, and we have got to be more pro-business and give people a chance. I understand when you talked about gas tank, what are we going to do with the tanks in the ground? Well, what did they do at Rite Aid? That used to be a Speedway, and that was a bonded. That started out as a bonded gas station. They took them out. Look at, what's that the car lot that is next to, what is it? It used to be Henry's. They took out those gas tanks. There is a way to make it to where another company can get in. The question is, Do we want that property to sit empty? Because there's nobody fighting for that property. There's nothing 24 hours on Navarre. Yes, they sell gas, but they also sell food. And you really don't only have St. Charles Hospital. You have everybody that drives up and down there. Coming home from Cedar Point at 11 o'clock, the kids are screaming for something to eat. Yeah, that's summertime. But wintertime, you got a lot of people going out ice fishing, going from one place to another, and there's a lot of traffic. So you also do have, and I know a lot of people that work at Toledo Refining, and I've talked to a few of them that said, yeah, finally, something open in the middle of the night. Yeah, somewhere where we could go. So you're not only servicing just St. Charles. This is for the community as a whole. Those that come through here, those that work here, not only at St. Charles, but everywhere. And I, for one, I know that a lot of people are against it, but I'm for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves.
thank you. Mr. Parker, I have a few questions. I'm on board with Mr. Wallenczak about this area. I know probably can't do it from this side, but if you look back here, I don't know, maybe I'm just not it's too bright. Penny literate, but on the left of the screen, that's where I would like to see, the left of the screen, that's where I would like to see the gas station pumps, not out in front on Navarre Avenue.
9-degree rotation.
Yeah, the building doesn't have to change, but just do the gas, maybe put the building more up front towards Navarre and then move those over. That's what I would like to see. Mr. Parker, how many, just approximately, I know, how many charging stations are proposed? I can't read the stuff in the
I think
packet.
there's 6, they told me, I think. In there. 6.
Okay, there's 6 of them. I don't know much about electric
I
cars.
don't either.
Good, then we'll both learn this together then. Approximately, what's the cost for charging, do you know? Or what,
It's going to be pretty minimal, I think. I think he told me a couple bucks or something for so many minutes. It's not a lot.
okay. How long do we know how long it takes to charge a car?
I don't know, sir.
I mean, I don't either. I mean, things that I have read and things that I have heard is that it takes a while to fully charge a car. So, my biggest thing is, probably a week ago and maybe even, yesterday, I was against this. I didn't think that this is something that we needed to be one of the first things we see as we pass the hospital. But if we can engineer the gas pumps to the west of the building, maybe slide the building up a little bit further, that gives you a better access point for viewing when it comes in. Like Mr. Wallenczak said, I don't think we want to see gas pumps, charging stations, and a canopy as the first thing as you come past St. Charles Hospital. If there's a way that we can get that to move, I'm 110% for it. And not to disagree with Ms. Pauloff with her comment that nobody's trying to beat down the door for this corner, but they are. It's get and go. It's trying to get this property. So I am going to, if it gets to a vote tonight, I will be in favor of it, but I would like to see some changes.
I will tell you this, as I think I said in response, this is the first I've heard of it. We will work, our engineers will work to see if they can redesign the building from an engineering standpoint. And we will work with your administration and prove that we can or we can't with substantial reasons. So that we're taking an honest attempt at doing it. They're willing to do that. GetGo is willing to invest the time and energy to have their engineers look at it.
Mr. Parker, that's what I'm not doubting your word. I'm just reiterating. That's what you have told us and told me when we've talked on the phone.
Okay,
And I'm gonna take you at your word for it and the company that they're gonna try their darndest to get to make it more pleasing to the people and the citizens of, Oregon.
I wouldn't represent that unless I had a text from my client said he would do that. So,
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President.
thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
thank you.
Mr. Capman.
Real quick. The restaurant that was in there before, the Sterling's or whatever it's called now. I'm friends with the guy that owned the gas station. There was a franchise. He owned the franchise. When he sold the gas station, the franchise was part of the deal until a certain amount of time. That's why they probably pulled it out. They didn't actually own the franchise. And a lot of times you'll see these gas stations, though, I think they're doing it in-house. It's their own thing, so it's not bad, but the fees and everything else, they all sign up for pita pits and all that was there. But you get all these and it costs money and then you gotta buy from them. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but a lot of times in these gas stations, you'll see, unless it's in-house, they're paying a lot of fees and different things, and that's why you see that pull out a lot. But before, that pita pit was owned by someone else. It was their franchise. So.
Thank you, Mr. Capman. That makes sense. Is there anybody else here to speak in opposition? Please come to the podium, ma'am. State your name and address, please, for the record.
Linda Metzger, 1007 Mallard Drive, Oregon, Ohio. Okay, my question is why that location? You go up and down Navarre Avenue, and how many for sale signs do you see? You talk about Freeway Plaza? That's an eyesore. Why not put it there? Plenty of room. And what about the RVs that are coming in from Maumee Bay? The big motor homes or the fishing boats that she was talking about with the cars and the trucks? Are they going to be able to turn around and get in or out? And then the other thing was they offered a chef and food for St. Charles Hospital. Is that chef going to be there 24/7? Just a couple comments and thoughts.
Okay, just let me say this to you, though. I understand what you're saying, and all of us up here hear this all the time. It's frustrating for us, and I know it's frustrating for some of the citizens. I know there's other properties on Navarre that we'd probably rather see this go to, but we don't have anything to do with that. You have an owner of a property, and when they get approached by somebody who wants to be there, buy their property, they sell it. And normally that stuff doesn't even come before us. And the only reason this is coming before us is because it's a gasoline station. It sells gasoline, so it requires a special use permit. Other than that, if it didn't, we wouldn't even be here tonight. They would just go ahead and start building. And the other thing to consider here too, is keep this in mind. So we deny this and the property becomes vacant, it stays vacant as it is. And U-Haul buys it and puts a chain link fence around it. We can't stop that.
Well,
It could-
it
it could be a
goes with
car-
all the
it could
car
be-
lots we have in the banks,
It
so.
could be a car lot. It's
Yep.
just, we don't have that latitude. If someone sells their property and someone buys the property, generally, if it doesn't require some kind of special use, we
Does-
have nothing to do with it.
Does Freeway Plaza offer a special, that he would have to apply for something special for there? Or no?
Yeah, he would. Yeah. Yeah.
Have
With
you
this
checked
kind, with
Freeway
this kind,
Plaza? Freeway Plaza, have you checked their property? You put your gas station there? Oh, bigger piece of land, I think. Better location, turn around, and we have our restaurant, can take over Freeway. 24/7.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I was just gonna say, it's literally across the street. So if you're looking at a difference of why you wouldn't put it there and put it across the street, I don't. Aesthetics is in the eye of everybody, could be different. I think a lot of people wouldn't see a whole lot of difference if it was directly across the street or right there. I don't see it, myself don't see a difference. I won't argue that you could see a difference, but as for the impact, I think it's virtually the same.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anybody that wishes to speak in opposition? Anybody else?
Mr.
Councilman-
Mr.
Council-
President,
Mr. Wallenbeck.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a general question for administration. I know you guys engage with property owners from time to time that have properties for sale. If people are coming in, we engage with them to say, hey, look at this property, A, B, or C, see if you could work there. We don't have property ourselves. So are we engaging with the current property owners that have properties for sale or lease to try to locate property or businesses on their properties?
Mr. President,
Mr. Mayor.
that's one of the functions of the Oregon Economic Development Foundation. Any kind of parcels that people notify us that they're interested in filling or selling or leasing, we turn that over to the Economic Development Foundation and try to assist them any way they will allow us to assist them. Because they could set up the rules. It's their property. But we also do, by direction, work with anybody to try to lead them any way, shape, or form to whatever we have available.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenbeck. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will close this public hearing at 8:02. And I will assign item 67, 2023.
Mr. President,
Mr.
I could, I was
Orlando.
waiting for the close of the hearing where we'd have additional opportunity to either speak on it.
I just offered that.
Well, you were going through opposition. I mean,
Okay.
so we can do it outside of that. That's, I mean, I'm.
Go ahead. Do you have anything to
comfortable with
add?
that. I would have spoken before we voted to this anyhow. So the one thing I would share, for those that don't know me, I've owned a business in Oregon for decades, and it was on Navarre Avenue. And we sweated payrolls and we figured out a way, and we went through the widening project when they tore up Navarre Avenue and a customer couldn't get to us if they tried. We made it through all that. So if anybody supports business and people that are willing to take a risk on doing something that makes sense, obviously they've done their diligence. The question of why would they pick that place? Mr. Parker, my guess is because that's the most viable place economically for them to go. Is that fair? True. The other part, I have been contacted by more people in our community about this particular property and this proposed SUE that I've been contacted about everything we've considered in the last 7.5 years I've been here. And not one person from our community that reached out to me told me how much they supported this. In fact, not one of them did. The reason I asked the question of who from Fairmont supported this, because I asked Randy, who I believe is the CEO of Fairmont Properties, point blank from 2 feet away, how do you feel about this? He says, this isn't what we'd like to see there. I understand that there's challenges with the property as it is. I also understand other businesses have been interested in the property. There gets to be a question of the structure of the deal, whether it's a lease, whether it's a purchase, all those types of things come into those plays. As a city, we can put people together to have a conversation. The best explanation I can move, because in a lot of these conversations, one of the things I heard from a lot of these people is, and why did we put a car wash right in the middle of Navarre Avenue? Why did you guys do that? And to the comment that was made before, we didn't. That's a private property owner selling his property to another private property owner. It was appropriately zoned for a car wash to be there, which means they had no reason to come to the city for anything. And the way I explain that to people, it would be as I wanted to sell my home to PJ. And PJ said, yes, I'd like to buy your home. And we come up with a deal. The city of Oregon can't come in and go, no, 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 no. In this particular case, because of it being zoned C4, it needs the special use. And as a city, the special use gives us certain tools to work with, restrictions, things that we can say and do about the property itself. Those haven't been specified. One of my biggest challenges to this is we're being asked to vote on something where we're saying additional screening, additional buffering. We haven't really locked anything down. I asked that a couple weeks ago in a council meeting. The only good side I could say for those who are concerned with this is I am one of the seats on the Architectural Review Committee. So we certainly, if this does happen to go through, we will certainly do everything we can to make this in the most pleasing manner that we possibly can. This is exceptionally challenging to me because I am to my core a free enterprise person. That if a business says, I want to stick a shovel in the ground and invest in your community, I'm hard pressed to not do it. But I took an oath 7 years ago and again 3 years ago that I would represent the people of Oregon. And every voice that has talked to me from the people of Oregon has says they are not in favor of this. As much as I support business development here, as much as I support that becoming something that can be useful and helpful, and I think it would be a thriving business, and I have no challenge with that. The citizens of this community have reached out to me and said this is not what we want in our community. We have been approached by Olive Garden, Panera, many other places that haven't come here for whatever reason. I don't know that exercising a choice on this tells people that we're not business friendly. I think courting businesses that have been interested in our community that we haven't found a way to make it work does make us business unfriendly. So for that nature, Mr. Parker, I believe it to be a very good project. I would love to see it on the Joseph property down where Big Lots is at. Would love to see it there. But I also stand that there's reasons why that corner is viable. The right in, right out, that would concern me because you're going to basically get the traffic going one way. And that loop is going to present some issues to us as a city. So I guess just to put it out there, I said, everybody I've talked to and the ones that we are beholden to in the community have said they don't like this. And I have in many cases voted against what some people may have said to me or asked of me because I believe it was in the best interest of the community. I don't believe that this development on this property is in the best interest of our community as well. And with that, I'll close, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. I will continue on. I will assign item 67, 2023 as ordinance 67, 2023, and ask Ms. Ralston to read it into the record.
Authorizing a special use permit for parcel 4424264 for property located at 2740 Navarre Avenue for the purpose of operating a gasoline/service station on the property in a C4 Dustin Road Business District.
Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 67 of 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Ralston, will you take a roll call vote of council, please?
Mr. Horniak?
No.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
No.
Mrs. Paula?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
No.
Mr. Zale?
Yes. Thank you, council. Ordinance 67, 2023 passes with 4 yeas and 3 nays. Next, business councils, we need to, since we did not have a committee of the whole meeting last week, we need a motion to add items 68 through 71 to this week's agenda.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves.
so moved.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Second, Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, items 68 through 71 will be added to this week's agenda. First item is item 68, 2023, presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Fire Chief Clayton O'Brien, and I will defer to Chief O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is for the fire department to be able to hire 2 part-time fire inspectors. These fire inspectors will assist us in being able to complete the over 900 fire inspections that we need to complete each and every year. So that's what this ordinance is about.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Council, any questions or comments? We pretty much discussed this very well at the committee meeting beforehand. Hearing none, I will assign item 68, 2023 as ordinance 68, 2023, and ask Ms. Ralston to read in the record.
Amending the classification plan of the City of Oregon as approved by ordinance 90-1986 by creating the classification of fire inspector part-time in the fire department, establishing a pay range for the position of fire inspector part-time, and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Ms. Paulo.
I move for passage of ordinance 68 of 2023 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Paulo.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wallenczak. Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Ms. Ralston, would you take a roll call vote of council, please?
Mrs. Paula?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenczak?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 68, 2023 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for consideration is item 69, 2023, which is presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Public Service Director Paul Roman, and I will defer to Mr. Roman on that.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is needed to proceed with the 2023 road program. The 4 projects are fully described in Exhibit A. Project 3 was the reconstruction of Ember Drive. We only received 1 bid, and it was 25% over our estimate. We feel that it'd be better to rebid this project in the fall, hoping we can attract more bidders. Actually, City of Toledo did all their bids in the fall, and I think it probably served them well. So a lot of our contractors were busy when it came to our bids. So, but out of out of all the bidders that had submitted bids, Henry Bergman was the lowest and best bid for projects 1, 2, and 4, and we would like to proceed with those projects. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, any questions or comments regarding item 69? Hearing none, I will assign item 69, 2023 as ordinance 69, 2023, and ask Ms. Ralston to read the record.
Accepting the bids of Henry W. Bergman, Inc., 218 East 9th Street, Genoa, Ohio, for Project 1, Project 2, and Project 3 for furnishing labor, materials, and equipment for the 2023 roadway improvement program, authorizing the mayor, director of public service, and finance director to enter into a contract with said contractors and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance 69 of 2023 as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Mr. Ralston, would you take a roll call vote of council on ordinance 69?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Ms. Paula?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Just for clarification, it's project 4,
It's
correct?
1,
1, 2, and 4?
4. Yeah.
Right, and I believe it was read in as 1, 2, and 3. Just so we have a correction, but
Oh.
my answer is yes.
My apologies. 1, 2, and 4.
And yes,
Reread it.
Pardon me, did you say 1, 2?
Do you want me to reread it?
Go.
I thought I heard 1, 2, and 3, and it should have been 1, 2, and 4.
We'll reread it, Mr.
Yes.
We'll reread it.
My apologies. Let me reread that into the record for you, if I may.
We know you.
No, you don't need to,
No?
but no, my vote is yes.
1, 2.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead with the vote. Just go ahead with the vote. Yeah. Where are we at on the vote?
After me.
Okay. Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenczak?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes. Thank you, council. Ordinance 69, 2023 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for consideration is being presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and City Administrator Joel Major, item 70, 2023. And I will defer to Mr. Major.
Thank you, Mr. President. At long last, we finished at least Ms. Papura finished the agreement with the attorneys from Jake and Cooper's Bark Park. That is a nonprofit organization that is going to be running the dog park, but they are also going to be contracting with Toledo Unleashed, who runs the dog park in South Toledo right now. So they'll run both of them. They will run the memberships and maintenance of the inside of the fence, and we'll maintain outside of the fence since we do lease the property from the YMCA. The project is currently under construction now, and we are on schedule and on budget for the opening for May 23rd. So hope everybody can make it for the leash cutting ceremony. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Council, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will assign item 70, 2023 as ordinance 70, 2023, and ask Ms. Ralston to read into the record.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to enter into an agreement with Jake and Cooper's Bark Park, a nonprofit corporation located in Oregon, Ohio, to provide services for the operation of the City of Oregon Dog Park located at 2960 Pickle Road, Oregon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves.
I move for passage of ordinance 70 of 2023 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Second,
Second by Ms. Pauloff. Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Ms. Ross, will you take a roll call vote, Council?
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mrs. Paula?
yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, Council. Ordinance 70, 2023 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Final item for this evening is item 71, 2023, presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Chief of Police Brandon Began. And I will defer to Chief Began.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is seeking approval for purchase of 18 mobile radios. This was added back into the budget back in March, I believe, when we spoke about it. The reason for updating these is January 1st of 2025. These radios that we currently have will be obsolete, and this is a replacement for them. The reason we're moving forward at this point is we were able to get on a bulk order with City of Toledo and multiple other municipalities, which gave us a little bit of a discount. The normal pricing on it is about $7,100 a piece. We originally thought with our order, we were going to be in at about $5,500 a piece. But with this bulk order pricing, we're down to $4,759 per radio for the 18 radios.
Thank you, Chief. Council, any questions or comments regarding item 71? Hearing none. I will assign item 71, 2023 as ordinance 71, 2023, and ask Ms. Ralston to read it to the record.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to issue a purchase order to Motorola Solutions, Inc., 1301 East Algonquin Road, Schaumburg, Illinois, for the purchase of mobile radios to be used in Oregon Police Division and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Ms. Paulo.
I move for passage of ordinance 71 of 2023 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Paulo.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Ralston, would you take a roll call vote of council, please?
Mrs. Paula?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 71, 2023 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. And we have no one signed in to speak before council this evening, so we will move into the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, I have a couple of resignations and a hire that you got correspondence for. I'll start from the Division of Fire and ask council's concurrence in the resignation of Jason Beckett, effective May 1st, 2023.
Council.
Mr. President,
Ms. Paulo.
I move to concur with the mayor on accepting the resignation of Jason Beckett from the Oregon Police or Fire Department.
Thank you, Ms. Paulo.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wallensack. Thank you, Mr. Wallensack. Council, are there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mr. Mayor, council does concur with accepting the resignation of Jason Beckett.
And next, I'd ask council's concurrence in the resignation of Ryan Hodder, which was effective April 18th, 2023, and ask council's concurrence in the acceptance. Once again, resignation Ryan Hodder.
Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Wallensak.
Thank you. Mr. President, I move for concurrence or acceptance of the mayor's recommendation to accept the resignation of Ryan Hodder.
Thank you, Mr. Wallensak.
Second.
Second, Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Counselor, are there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mr. Mayor, council does concur with your acceptance of the resignation of Ryan Hodder.
And next and lastly, I have from the Department of Public Service and the Engineering Department. I would ask the council's concurrence in the appointment of Mr. Ethan McNair, 4825 County Road 16, Woodville, Ohio, 43469. He will be placed at classification 3, step 3 seasonal pay scale, which hourly rate of $15.75. And the startup date would be May 3rd, 2023. Once again, I'll ask for concurrence in the appointment. Ethan McNair.
Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I would like to concur with the mayor of the appointment of Mr. Ethan McNair
Thank-
as, what'd you say?
Intern.
Oh, engineering intern,
Thank you,
effective
Mr.
Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauloff. Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Counselor, are there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mr. Mayor, council does concur with the appointment of Ethan J. McNair for an engineering intern position for the city of Oregon.
And with that, I would conclude my report and I'd ask if you'd hand me that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Major.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Rawson and I attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for Renew Chiropractic, a new business that opened in Oregon on 715 South Coy Road. Always good to celebrate celebrate victories. So I just wanted to point that out, and that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Ms. Purpura.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Purpura. Mr. Roman.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two things. Cassie, I want to apologize that if you didn't say one, if you said 1, 2, or 3, that I called you out. It sounded to me like you said 1, 2, 3.
And if I did, I apologize.
No, I'm the one that's hearing impaired. But second thing, I'd like to call a Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for Monday, May 8th at 6 PM. And the purpose is to continue to discuss the updates that we found out of the baseball, softball press box. So that'll be on Monday, May 8th at 6 PM. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Drake.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Mr. Wallensak.
Thank you, Mr. Zale. No report from my standing committee, but I wanted to thank all council members for the lively debate we had. We don't get a chance to debate things much on our floor of our council, and obviously we all have different views and opinions on certain things, but sometimes it's nice to be able to debate those on the open floor of council. And thank you to all the residents that reached out to me and the other council members to express their concerns and comments about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallensak. Mr. Davish.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Pauloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we have the safety committee meeting in regards to the hiring of the part-time fire inspectors. It was a really good meeting because it was very informative. It was really well put together by the chiefs. And it really showed that we really have a desperate need for fire inspectors in the city of Oregon. So thank you for putting that together, and I look forward to seeing who you're going to hire for those positions. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Mr. Horniak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things, reporting back from the Economic Development Foundation meeting, which took place last Friday. Very fun and exciting meeting. Since we put them there, I'm going to go ahead and put it here. The individuals from Buffalo Rock Brewing Company joined us at Economic Development on last Friday to talk about their vision of their place in Oregon, Ohio. So we're excited to work with them and get that information and help them secure the property and start on their process. Pretty exciting to see something like that coming into Oregon and settling in. And I think they'll be a great fit, and having spent a little time talking with two of the individuals that are part owners in that, I think we're going to be very glad to welcome them into our community. So they did a little presentation with the Economic Development Group on Friday, which was a lot of fun and very exciting for all of us to see that. On the flip side of that, just wanted to report back to council, because I'd spoken with many of you prior to that. We had a meeting with Fairmont Properties Tuesday of last week, am I correct? Where we talked through some of the challenges in getting development happening and starting. I do believe that we had a very good, frank, and candid dialogue about our desire and really kind of drive to create some urgency and some activity into that. I am told that letters of intent are already in, and we should be able to announce some things soon. But we did change some of the discussion of the property layout, what would be there, what would be included into that, which we think would make it a more developable opportunity to the businesses that are coming through. We continued conversations with a couple other people that also have interest in that. But I just wanted to share back with the council members. I believe they very much understand our need and desire to have something going there. 3+ years is long enough for us to be looking at an empty parking lot. It's time for things to start happening, and I believe that they understand that. So we believe that there will be at least 3 commitments. And there is discussions with residential development within that, which hasn't been going on for a while. So we do feel pretty good about what came out of that meeting. They're working on a development agreement, which I have asked the administration to hold on to until we see some of the benchmarks met. So with that, I'll close. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. I'll just reiterate a little bit of what you said. It was a very good meeting on Tuesday. I thought we got a lot settled with Fairmont on Tuesday. I felt a lot better about things, but just to remind council and the administration, we did give them to June 1st to come through for us with something concrete. So we know where we're going. And hopefully we don't have to reverse directions, but it was a very productive meeting. Also, we'll have the dog park grand opening coming up pretty soon. I can't remember the date.
May 3rd.
Was that?
May 7th.
May 7th?
7th is the.
Yeah, if you've had a chance to look online at our website and seen the progress, we've really moved right along. It's gonna be a beautiful facility. And I have nothing else. I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
You have to,
Wait a minute, you got a
public hearing
public hearing.
I don't have one.
for the planning commission.
I don't have one. I don't have that. I don't have that.
Okay. Well, there was,
The
For the
public hearing
referral
for
for
the,
the-
we got the sign already posted up out there.
yep, there was supposed to be a referral to the planning commission for a public hearing
Just had a public hearing for the planning
for the
commission.
planning commission for
For
the
the-
fire station.
Well, can we
Can
we pull it up? The referral, the paperwork? I don't know who dropped it.
Was it initiation by the city or the economic development?
Jim left, so that the application came in from the OEDF to,
And we're just referring it to the planning?
Yeah.
yeah,
commission?
just referring it.
Then we wouldn't do that here.
You can do.
We won't do that here.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
You
we
always
do
do.
here.
It initiates, starts here.
Okay.
If it's coming from the city, then it comes in front of council. We just refer it to the planning commission.
All right, can we still do it today?
They file the.
What's the address over there? What's the address?
Yes.
Yes.
5004.
Jim has it.
At the fire
Jim
station.
took off, so.
We got it. So we're gonna have to
Hang on.
look
hang
up
on.
we know the fire, we know the address of that.
Is it
All right.
5002? Okay.
So what else
Okay,
do we
hey,
need to?
When do you want to do this on? What date?
May
Good
9th.
to have you here.
May 9th?
May 9th.
Public hearing for, is this going to be a mixed,
It'd be SUE.
an SUE? We don't have the number though, but we can,
Certainly fill that in
The
and
number will
put
be
it-
assigned.
okay, council, I am going to set a public hearing for May the 9th for the property at 5002.
Mr. President Zale, all we're doing is referring it
Oh.
to the planning commission.
Okay, okay. Okay, on May, and they'll meet on the May the 9th.
Referring it to the plan.
So for their meeting on May the 9th.
Yeah. What's that?
Tonight is the referral.
Just the
It's
referral.
a referral.
That's
Yeah.
So as a
Okay,
point of new
right.
business, can't you make that a point of new business and introduce it at that?
As long as we're referring it.
We're
that's
just
all we're-
referring it, yeah. Okay, council, we're going to refer to the Plan Commission for May 9th, an SUE for the property at 5002 Seaman Road, commonly known as the old fire station number 1. Okay? Now, where was I? I need a second to. Right. Second by Mr. Davish. Council, any objections? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. You guys have twisted me up today pretty good.